All right, guys, welcome back to the Alt Perspective. Hope you're all doing good. So, lately, we've been seeing a bunch of declassified UFO documents coming out, along with some other wild stuff that talks about demonic activity and all kinds of bizarre things. And you know me, I had to dig into it. I came across some really interesting connections, not just with UFOs, but also with ancient beliefs, demonic entities, and even the devil himself. Turns out, a lot of these ideas go way back, and there's a crazy roadmap linking them all together. Oh, and get this. Steven Spielberg is apparently working on a new movie about this exact topic. Here's a clip of him chatting with Stephen Colbert about it.
Let's talk about UFOs for a minute. What do you make of what's going on right now?
Oh, it's exciting. There's something out there.
So you're a believer?
I don't know if I'm a believer in the sense that I'm kind of the person that would think, I got to see something like that to believe it.
So, of course, obviously, he's made a number of movies and series on this particular topic. You would think that he at least partially believes in this. Perhaps he's not telling you the entire story there. His newest show is going to be called Disclosure. It's coming out in May 2026. And the film stars Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, a number of other actors. And, of course, this is a two-handler film with a UFO storyline. And so, of course, once again, he's doing that. I mean, he's done a number of shows and movies like this over the last decade or so. It seems like a lot of his movies are a lot of his sort of movies of the last decade tend to be in this realm. Diving into some wild stuff that's been making the rounds? Ever heard of the CIA's old Stargate project? Back in the day, they were into some seriously out there experiments. Think psychics trying to spy on the Soviets, remote viewing, and even claims of checking out alien pyramids on Mars. Sounds like a sci-fi movie plot, right? We had some rather curious things being told about what happened in the original project, where they had opened up some sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, portal, and something stepped out. There was one particular instance of, obviously there was a lot of stuff they did in this project, but this was one interesting one, and made some sort of deal with this entity for 50 years over America, and it just ended not too long ago. It's kind of interesting. Fast forward to now, and President Trump has brought the Stargate name back into the spotlight. But this time, it's all about a massive $500 billion push into AI infrastructure, teaming up with big names like OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank. The goal? To supercharge AI development right here in the US. And seems like everything's falling apart after this all happened, after this deal was made. And the way that the deal was made kind of sounds like something the devil would do, the way it sounded. So I don't know if these are really aliens, as they say. And, of course, we're going to get into what Stephen Greer says and a number of other people, because he tries to delineate, saying aliens are not the same as demons. And, you know, I just want to kind of explore that, too, a little bit.
And so that's why I don't like the term alien, which means foreign, right? I like the term, people. People say, what do you call it? I say, they're non-human people. They're extraterrestrial people. Now, the trick here, and this is where it gets very complicated for some people, is that a lot of people will do something like that, and they'll bump into something from another dimension, right? Like an angel or a demon or whatever. But that's not extraterrestrial. So this is where you get into this, Tucker Carlson. He got gaslit by a lot of these intel folks who told them that the aliens are demons. Well, the reason he was gaslit was because they were preying on his valid, Christian beliefs. I'm not questioning that at all. But this sort of cosmology that is known within many traditional circles, they wanted to conflate that with alien. And it's easy to do because that is another special operations capability, and that is to use very powerful electromagnetic systems to create phenomenon like you see at Skinwalker or Bradshaw Ranch.
It is really interesting, though, some of the stuff that they were doing with our money, with our taxpayer dollars, with some of these projects, I mean, goodness gracious. Uh, I'm wondering whether they're drawing the devil here. I mean, were you communicating with the dude? I mean, it makes you kind of wonder. You have here God. What does this say? 10 command. I can't even read that. 10 ENTs. ENTs. I mean, they were getting. It's really interesting to me how they had an issue with people talking about this stuff online over the last 7 years. Can't talk about all this stuff. It's too out there. While they're funding, they're taking our own tax dollars and doing all this stuff that even looks more bizarre and crazy than anything anybody ever pretty much talked about online. I mean, literally putting our money into this. Remote, of course, viewing, being able to see some grapes drawn in another room and drawing their own. Here's a lady doing it. Yeah, okay. I just think it's interesting. Maybe it's because we were figuring stuff out. They didn't want us to know. Is that what it really was? And this one's really bizarre. Check this out. Mars exploration, 1984, May 22nd, 1984. They used a remote, no viewer, to go millions of years in the past over on Mars. Are you kidding me? Really? And apparently this is called science. So merely questioning simple things about science is wrong. Oh, you can't do that. But then they can do experiments like this where they get some guy who claims he can see something on Mars a million years ago. And that's science. Really? I don't think so. I don't think that's science. That's ridiculous to call this science, but then people actually looking into science and questioning things, not science, right? I find that so ironic. Here we have method of site acquisition, sealed envelope coupled with geographic coordinates. The sealed envelope was given to the subject immediately prior to the interview. The envelope was not opened until after the interview. Obviously, it's been conducted scientifically. Wow, great. Still talking about a guy claiming he can see something on Mars a million years ago. I mean, seriously, give me a break. Selected geographic coordinates provided by parties requesting the information. Down here is I kind of read through this. Plus 20 minutes or plus 10 minutes, ready to start. All right, now using the information in the envelope I provided, exclusively focusing your attention now. Using the information in the envelope, focus on 40.89 degrees north, 9.55 degrees west on Mars, apparently. I want to say it looks like, I don't know. It sort of looks, kind of got an oblique view of a pyramid form. It's very high. It's kind of sitting in a large depressed area. All right. It's yellowish, ochre colored. All right. Move in time to the time indicated on the envelope. I provided you and described what's happening. I'm tracking severe clouds, more like dust storm. Geographic problem seems like just a minute. I've got iron this out. It's really weird. Just report your raw perceptions at this time. You're still early in the session. It's looking at after the effect of a major geologic problem. Okay, go back in time before the geologic problem. Total difference. It's before. I mean, look. Okay, just explain to me, how is this person able to travel back in time with their mind? Can you explain that one to me? How does he know how to go to a time before the geologic problem? How would he know when the problem started? I mean, literally just making this stuff up and just writing it down. As far as I'm concerned, you have no clue that this is actually real, right? Just because someone can, let's just say there is the possibility. Let's just say it's true. You can do remote. Of course, if you're doing, let's just say it's real. And someone could go from one room to another one and see what's written on a paper. That doesn't mean he can travel back in time millions of years ago on Mars. There's a big difference between the two, okay? My researcher found something rather curious. Connections between various gods and ancient cultures and how it leads up into this whole UFO phenomenon. You have this being called Yusum Galu. And of course, you can see here a picture, ancient Mesopotamian picture of it. It's this being on the left. It looks rather strange. It looks like, sort of like it has lion legs. It has sort of like a dragon scale-like body. Very strange looking head, obviously wings as well. And what was really interesting is he actually was able to connect this to scripture. You know, when it talks about a roaring lion, the devil's like a roaring lion, or that he's a red dragon, it's actually referring probably to this creature right here. And I'm going to kind of show that in this video, that it actually has a lion-like body while it can also fly and has a dragon-like features as well. And this is actually probably what it's referring to in scripture. So here we have Prometheus, the lion dragon. He wrote up this script for me, and we're going to kind of go through some of this and show some of this in this video as well, and then tie it into this whole UFO thing. So the Babylonian conquest and Daniel's intervention. Now, what's interesting is they removed part of Daniel from scripture. It's called Bel the dragon, and it refers to Daniel actually feeding the dragon something and it dies. Now, this dragon was worshipped in Babylon. So Marduk was the chief deity of Babylon during time of Cyrus. Marduk also identified with Baal. Baal, of course, is the religion that Israel was dealing with a lot. It's off track. Daniel had to intervene when Cyrus began to worship Baal, exposing the deception of the Baal priests. Daniel had them executed and destroyed the dragon that was worshipped alongside Baal. Now, what's interesting about this is this whole concept of Baal, Gilgamesh, and this dragon relates to this right here. Gilgamesh or Baal and the dragon. Okay, that's basically what's going on here. And it's mirrored in many religions. Satan and Gilgamesh worship Gilgamesh, Marduk, Baal, and Satan were openly venerated that one. So Satan would actually be this being right here. And this would be the Gilgamesh figure. Okay? So this is the hero of old, Nimrod. Nimrod is Gilgamesh, the hero of old. And this is Satan himself. And I'm actually going to tie it into these ancient Akkadian texts showing that this being actually is described as the being in the Garden of Eden, the serpent. And the serpent, by its nature, it's referring to a dragon when it says serpent. So that serpent happened to be probably a being that looked just like this and lost its legs. Okay? So it's not exactly what you would call a snake as you think of today. It's a little bit different, obviously. Now, you can see here, you kind of correlated all these different religions and showed their beings, all these different gods that were worshipped as being the same gods. Enki as the primordial trickster, creator, cosmic dragon. Enki being the devil himself, creator of humanity, just comes back to the demiurge concept. He wasn't actually the creator of humanity, but rather claims to be. Although you could take another aspect on this, which I'm not going to do, but the way I look at it is he was a deceiver. So you got the serpent dragon aspect to him, the great serpent dragon, bringer of fire or knowledge, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And after the word tree in Genesis is referring to the being itself. So that's a higher, what do you call that? A higher symbolic terminology. Even Jesus himself used that, referring to people as trees. And it is sort of like a higher meaning underneath the surface type of thing, a symbolic meaning. So when it says tree of knowledge of good and evil, it's referring to the being itself, the serpent itself. It could also be a physical tree, but I kind of doubt it. I mean, it could be theoretically, but I think it's referring mainly to the being itself. A fire thief, a titan older than the Olympians, a shape-shifting trickster, bound in chaos. And you could see that creator and hidden one, so he hides himself, linked to Osiris and Baal, preserver and destroyer, kind of like Shiva. So we saw that with the Hadron, of course, collider. That being the devil in himself, Shiva, is related to the devil himself, the one in the garden. Shiva as a cosmic dancer, avatars, multiple forms, bringer of false light, roaring lion, deceiver, rules over the nations. So you can see here kind of the concept. Enki was known as Usham Gal or Usam Gala. Great serpent dragon was one of the three-horned serpents of Akkadian mythology, was worshipped in Urdu. Now, the Akkadian culture is the only culture that has a historical text or historical lineage all the way back to the original first humans. And they even have a book much longer than Genesis that talks about Adam and Eve and all that. And it goes into great, great detail, lot more detail. Just put it that way. So Enki was worshipped in Urdu. He was associated with wisdom, water, healing, and creation. Prometheus, you've heard of the movie, the Alien movie franchise. Prometheus would be the devil himself, as Enki, or also known as the trickster god, Loki, or how you say his name? Loki. I'm sorry, Loki. The tree of knowledge. So just as Prometheus gave fire to humanity, Enki was responsible for teaching humans arts and knowledge. The tree of knowledge, the tree of life motifs appear in Enki hymns, similar to the biblical serpent. Enki's association with trickery and shape-shifting aligns with Loki, Norse, Prometheus, Greek gods. And so they have, of course, a modern version of this, and that's what we're getting into now. This gets into the aliens part. Luciferian, of course, doctrine, and Trinitarian, avatars. Anu, sky god. Enlil, storm and order. Enki, serpent, trickster. So, of course, if you understand ancient Hebrew, this is what Dr. Michael Heiser talked about, that there was a god, the sky god, and there was also a god on earth. And the god on earth would be Jesus, even in the Old Testament, and the sky god would be God the Father in the heavens. And that was a concept that was known in the ancient times of the Israelites, but today they've pretty much dropped that concept. So that comes back to this, and these are actually the devil playing off those concepts and putting them into other religions. So you have Ra, the sun god, Ta, the kid creator, Amrum, the hidden one, magician, Hindu trinity, Brahma, the creator of Vishnu, the preserver, Shiva, the destroyer. And you can see that is also, and this is a heretical version here, where it tries to, and this is sort of the theosophical thing right here, where it tries to replace the Holy Spirit with Satan. And so they incorporated Hindu concepts into these doctrines. A lot of people are not aware of this. They actually worked with the Hindus. They actually worked with the famous guy in Hinduism. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. Gandhi, right? They worked with him actually directly, the people from that society. So, and they actually helped create what you see as modern day Hinduism. So that gets into the whole lamb versus ram. So the Baphomet would be the ram versus the lamb. And so that concept gets into this. We'll get into that more as we get farther into this video, but I wanted to kind of get into some of these other concepts, show you kind of the idea of when people do artwork on this being. You can see here's an example, a lion and a dragon in one. This is why he's the red dragon and also the roaring lion. Okay? Kind of interesting, right? He has wings as well. And it's just like this being here. This might be actually a very accurate depiction of him. I'm not sure. So, on the left. So, then we have this here, getting into, this is from Joe Rogan. Check this out.
But if you're making something that is some sort of a gravity propulsion system and you've made a breakthrough, you're not going to put that on Wired.com. You're not going to broadcast that on
Of course, they're not going to tell us anything. They're not going to tell us what they've made contact with, whether it's from another dimension or another world, right? And so all these things they keep hidden, including their technology, like this gravity technology.
And you're not going to tell anybody that. Because if the other countries find out, if the other superpowers, if China and Russia find out that we have some sort of a gravity propulsion, everyone's going to die.
Well, and the thing that's interesting about that is apparently China has that technology as well. That's why we saw all those flying things of the last couple months. Matter of fact, here's an example. A lot of people ask me, whatever happened to those flying objects? Nothing happened. They're just still out over the ocean every night. They're coming from the ocean. And I'm going to show you something rather curious with regards to that in a second as well. They're still out over the ocean every night. The news just got bored and moved on. So apparently it's still continuing on.
So these are the drones over Bradley Beach, New Jersey.
They're just there. They're still there. It's just no one talks about it anymore because we already heard about it. Don't even talk about it anymore, right? It's look. What's interesting is they used to have the structure just off the coast on Google Maps, but apparently they scrubbed it. Check this out.
Pictures of this structure still exist on the internet. And thanks to Ripley Cooks, we even have recent video of this anomaly. Whether it's a massive underwater alien base or just a really strange underwater geographical structure is unknown. But what is known is that it's 2,000 feet underwater and approximately 3 miles wide.
That is really
They
strange.
have an array of columns that were supporting a giant dome.
Yeah. So, of course, the question is, why did they scrub it on the map when it looks like there's some mega structure underneath the ocean, right off the coastline, which, of course, is where all of these things are at? Everyone keeps seeing them come from the ocean to, the coastline. And maybe that's where they're coming from, right? That's kind of interesting. Why don't we know about this? Of course, they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know what they don't want you to know. Okay? See what I mean? We have Dr. Greer here talking about some of this, about this gravitic propulsion. Check this out.
It's actually electrogravitics and electrogravitic field propulsion, but it's not a physics class.
Okay.
So what happened is that that research combined with a augmentation of that research, a big leap forward by studying the extraterrestrial vehicles that we downed
Right.
in the mid 40s and 50s.
Right.
So by the time those two streams combined into a mighty river of research, but it was covert.
As well as right. And so what's interesting about it is who's the only other country that now apparently has this technology? China. And should that be surprising considering the fact that they would make, and they're well known for reverse engineering things. So maybe we got it. Maybe they got a few of our vehicles that went down over there and they just decided to reverse engineer them and figure out how they ran and made their own. And that's why we've been seeing them for months over various parts of, America. So makes you kind of wonder. Of course, there's a lot of people still talking about this. Like I said, orbs over and under, of course, the water, bubbling. This is from the 14th of this month. Check us out. It's underwater, though. You can see it. There's actually lights coming off it. It's underwater. This one's just above the water. Obviously, perhaps they're coming from something underneath the water. That might make sense considering the fact people have numerous videos showing us. It would make sense, right? Not rocket science. Of course, it just seems so interesting how the last so many years, actually numerous years, they just kind of ignored all this stuff and just like, oh, I wonder why. Now we have a new president and he seems to be declassifying things and just everything seems to be backwards. Oh, most of the money has been basically, fraud or whatever. I wonder, maybe it's so they could run some of these projects or whatever the weird stuff they're doing. Who knows? And I thought I would just throw this video in here because I thought this was rather curious as well. I remember I had a video recently about a man at nighttime near his house showing something in the trees, breaking the trees down. You couldn't even see what it was. Like every time you try to look for it, you couldn't find it. It reminded me of that movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger where the thing was camouflage, right? Well, apparently we have another one here. This guy caught this on a drone. This is literally tearing trees down, okay? This is not some small thing. There's no way, I don't know what's doing this, but you can see it right at the end that it runs across an area where it's empty and you see like basically some sort of predator type thing. Check this out. All right, so you see how it's moving around? The trees are bowing and moving. He's going to show it right now. You can see it. See how do you see that right there? Right at the end? So like, look back here. You see that like it's moving. The trees are moving on a huge lay. And over here, you'll see it move across the screen. Right there. You saw that? See, that's an opening, but it looked like a tree you literally walked across. So it's almost like it's a camouflaged with what's its own surroundings. So it actually mirrors what's seen around it as you're looking at it. I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of. It's kind of weird, but Adder, I thought I'd just throw that in there just to see what you guys thought about that. Then we have this clip here. Check this out.
So what kind of communication are you having when you're summoning these beings?
We don't summon them. The King of England would summon a valet.
Well, no, I know Jake Lee's. I'm gonna get into this thing about summoning is like beneath them and like we're trying to respect aliens and stuff. That's basically what he's saying here. But then he goes on to say some other things. Let me see if I can get over to that.
And so that's why I don't like the term alien, which means foreign, right? I like the term, people. People say, what do you call it? So
so he's looking at it kind of in that way. Let's play this here.
That is known within many traditional circles. They wanted to conflate that with
aliens. So he's talking about demons and aliens. Because, of course, a lot of people recently have been saying they're one and the same. He's trying to say they're actually not the same thing.
And it's easy to do because that is another special operations capability. And that is to use very powerful electromagnetic systems to create phenomenon like you see at Skinwalker or Bradshaw Ranch. We know how they're doing it. I know who's doing it. I know what the electronics are. Now there's an innate.
Now, what's interesting about that is, isn't it some of the same? I mean, it's not the same technology, but it sounds related.
Phenomenon that was there, but then both sites were taken over by covert human black operations.
So this is weird to me because it seems like they use very similar technology for both. So it makes you wonder if it is actually related. Anyway, that's my video. Kind of want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.